These native peoples, they've survived for millennia like this, not needing all of this stuff, not needing to consume, being fulfilled with what they have, being content. And now they're introducing, because they're always trying to expand their markets, they're introducing televisions to these places. You'll see Bedouins now with the satellite dish, and he's in there watching Behibbik Lucy or something, you know, I Love Lucy reruns. And then he's watching American culture and seeing people that have refrigerators and running water. And he's no longer content with the well that he has. You see, now he wants, if they have running water, I should have running water. And unfortunately, he doesn't realize what getting running water means. Well, first you have to have electricity. And then what happens when you need electricity? Well, you need to generate the electricity. Well, how do you generate electricity? Well, you need to make dams, right? And make mega projects. Well, those cost money, and before you know it, the country's so in debt that all those wonderful projects that they promised are no longer being done, because the people are working so hard to pay the interest on those debts that they borrowed, and because the governments have learned so well from the masters who taught them that they used all the money to build their nice palaces and have their nice Mercedes 451s or what. They don't even buy the ones with the numbers. They just get them handmade in Germany, right? Seriously, you don't even see Clinton driving around some of the cars you see in West Africa, you know, because of the corruption. And it wasn't always like that. They learned that. These are learned behaviors. They're learned behaviors, you see. And man is susceptible to these things, and this is why the essence of our teaching is to condemn the wrong. It's to condemn the wrong and to enjoin the right. This is what has to be done, but we have to realize that there's a whole world that we don't even know about. There's things that we have to discover as human beings. It's a disservice to a man like Dr. Alan Austin who wrote that book and put so much effort into that book. Why? We call that ghira in Arabic. The reason that he did that, it's called ghira, and it's a Muslim attribute. Ghira is when you see an injustice or you see something wrong and it compels you to act. And a man who has sincerity will act to his utmost. So when he saw that Michener, who is a very quote-unquote well-respected person, he's not a real researcher, he's a novelist. But most Americans aren't real students. They read novels. So people like Michener can write a novel that's going to change the way an entire people are going to look at something. Really. And so to say that this is just fantasy, this is 1960s black radicalism, trying to say that there are Muslims in America. There's no Muslims in America. Well, here's a professor who knows there were. And so he set out to prove that within the academic tradition of the Western Hemisphere. But when he does that, what's happened? His research is ignored. And people like Michener, they're printed in Reader's Digest, which is sold at Safeway, in which millions of people are going to read that and be influenced by his thoughts. You see? So there's a reason for why these things happen. People are dumbed down. Tajhiluna, it's dumbing down. People are being dumbed down. Really, they're being given fluff on television, and their minds are deteriorating. People can no longer think. They don't have the ability to think. These things are happening to us. They're happening to our children. They're happening in your houses. And we have to be people that we're human beings. We have to be people like Sa'id ibn Umar, Umar bin Sa'id and Ayyub bin Sulaiman. People that didn't want to lose what was precious to them. They didn't want, even if it meant risking their lives. Even if it meant not having free time. If it meant that their free time was teaching their children the Quran, they would do that. They would make that sacrifice because there's more important things than sleeping and rest. One of the early Muslims said, there's plenty of time to rest in the grave. That's where the real sleep comes. You put your head on that rock and you'll have a good rest. But as long as you're in this world, just as night follows day, wakefulness follows sleep. And we've been sleeping for a long, long time. And it's time that people started waking up and looking at what's happening around them. We have to do this. People have to do this. You have to do it. There has to be people in this room that are not willing to come and hear a lecture and say, oh, that's interesting, and maybe tomorrow or the day after at your Starbucks over coffee, you say to somebody, did you know that there were 5 million Muslim slaves brought over here? That's called trivia. You know, Hitler was a vegetarian. That's not important. What's important is that you go out and you find out the truth, and then you speak that truth, and you wake people up to that truth. That's what's important. There has to be people in here that are willing to say, I'm going to do what that man did. I'm going to find out about this. There has to be African Americans in here that have ghairah, like this man said. I'm going to find out, because a lot of you are Muslim and you don't even know it, because there were righteous people in this country making prayers that their children would be Muslim. And so it begins to emerge again, because that's the nature of light. You see, you can't put out light. You can't put out the light. That's why the bee is honored in the Quran, because the bee produces two things, honey and wax. And honey is a medicine and it's sweet, and wax gives us light. And that's the way the Muslims are supposed to be. People that produce something that heals people, doesn't cause more suffering, that brings light to the world, not more darkness. This is the challenge. And we have to take up that challenge. These people have done work for us. I'm speaking to the Muslims in this room. They've done our work, and we congratulate them and commend them. But this is our story. This is the story of Muslims in this country, and it concerns them for their own reasons. But this is our story. It's the story of Muslims in the new world. We've been here from the beginning, and it's not 500 years, it's before 500 years, and we have to find out that too. We have to find out about the Seminole Indians and why they're wearing turbans on their heads, why their clothes are West African. We have to find out why all the Cherokees wore turbans. Why are the Southern Indians wearing turbans and wearing covering with loincloths over their pants? Why do you find the Eye of Fatima in pre-Columbian southern United States caves? The Hand of Fatima, which is a Muslim symbol, is well known. It was all over Andalusia, and it's found also in the Sikh, but they took it from the Muslims. This is a Muslim symbol, because the Muslims, to protect themselves from the evil eye, they used to say, "Alayka khams." Upon you is 5, and they thrust out their hand. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ وَمِنْ شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. There's 5 ayats. And they used to throw out their hand, alayka khams, like they were throwing those 5 ayats at them to protect them. Why does that show up here in this country? Aski Allah, this is his name, a Seminole chief who leads a fight, not a rebellion. They call it rebellion. Where'd they get that word? If you read Foucault, who had reasons of his own, Foucault talks about labeling, and the people in power always label the powerless with names to change the configurations. They call people that are struggling for self-determination rebels. Why are they rebels if they're defending their land? Why are they terrorists if they're defending their land? Seriously, that's a question to ask. But these are the games of the people in power. This man was fighting, and when the American soldiers went and made a treaty with him to allow him to negotiate. And he actually came to them on his own accord, and they hung him. And he died cursing them, because he was an honorable man dealing with venal and dishonorable people. And his story is one among many. There are honorable men in this world and honorable women. And this is what this teaching calls people to: dignity and honor, covering your nakedness, not being an animal, being a human being. We're not animals. That's one of the biggest lies of the 20th century. We're not animals. Philosophers distinguish between kinds and traits, differences of degree. Human beings don't differ from animals in degree. They differ from them in kind. There's no animals driving around BMWs and Mercedes and talking on cellular telephones. There's no animals that are donkeys that are leaving behind their history, the best thoughts of their life. We're not animals. We're human beings. We're a spiritual. We have dimensions that are unfathomable. We have a soul that goes on long after our bodies. Really, the human being is something amazing. Infinite capacity to do the most extraordinary things, to think, to have consciousness, to have many awakenings, to have spiritual awakenings, to have intellectual awakenings, to have emotional awakenings, awakenings of the heart, when love emerges out of nowhere, directed at another individual. People will do extraordinary things when that occurs. Human beings are something amazing, and they're trying to tell us they're not. They're trying to tell us that we're some freak of nature, a mistake. Trying to tell us that this is all by chance, that you're all sitting here, that I can even talk, that I can articulate, that I can tell you things that I've thought of, that I've read about, that I've experienced, and you can understand them with your ears and your eyes and your consciousness. Where did we all come from? Where did the people before us come from? Where did the people that come after us come from? Where did it all begin? The roots of man run deep. And this root keeps bringing forth a fruit from that place. Why? Why does it come up? Why are there people that are willing to stand up to injustice in every age, willing to put their lives on the line? Why? Go against the law of self-preservation. What is that in the human spirit that makes people do that? What is it in the human spirit that makes a man write over 700 pages to show people something that they're denying? What is that in the human being? It's something amazing. It's something incredible. And it should be honored. It should be elevated. We have to tell our children stories. We have to tell them great stories of great people that went before us, of who they were. People like Yarul Mahmoud. People like Sojourner Truth. Long before anybody thought of putting an unknown X on their name, Sojourner Truth gave away her slave name and called herself Truth. Because that's what she was looking for. And she was a great woman. And people should know her story. Why should they know the stories of Mickey Mantle and Frank Sinatra? People that have spent their lives amusing other people, amusing them to death. And they end up dying of things like cirrhosis because they spent their life in wantonness, drinking alcohol and fornicating. Why don't they tell us stories of people that rose above those desires, that achieved the heights of humanity? Why don't they tell us those stories? Because they don't want you to do that, because those don't sell well when you go to the liquor store. See, those don't sell well when you're trying to push tobacco, when you're trying to flood communities with crack cocaine. Those stories don't work well, because you'll actually affect people's hearts. You'll make them think that if they rose above us, then we can do it too. Because they were men and women, and we're men and women. And if they could be great, then we have that potential as well. That's what these stories are. They're stories of great people. And they're stories that should be told. They should be documented. They have to be documentaries. Really, they have films about the most asinine things, banal, with no meaning. Idiots' tales of sound and fury, not even of sound and fury. Idiots' tales signifying nothing will take out that sound and fury. Idiots' tales signifying nothing. And that's what they give people day in and day out. And we have to stand up now and start telling another story to our children, so that perhaps the generation that's going to rise up will not be a generation that sits by and watches life pass them by in front of a cathode ray screen, but actually goes out and becomes a subject of history and not an object of one, that transforms the world and is not transformed by it, that changes injustice and makes it justice. This is what the human beings can do. We've done it in the past, which proves we can do it now, and we can do it in the future. And anyone that tells you otherwise is a cynic, and cynic in Greek means dog. That's what they are. They're a dog. They're lying to you because they have reduced themselves to the level of a dog. They call, in this country, and you'll find this in these books, you see, they call these people that mixed with whites, mulattoes. Mulattoes. Everybody knows that term? Does anybody know what that means? Mulatto means a mule. You know what a mule is? Does anybody know what a mule is? It's a horse and a donkey. Now, these people are so stupid because a mulatto tradition in this country was a child who was the offspring of a black woman and a white man. And what the white man was inferring by calling them mulatto was that the white man was a horse and the black woman was a donkey. But these people are stupid people. They don't have much intelligence. They don't know that a mule is the offspring of a female horse and a male donkey. You see, a female donkey cannot give birth to a mule. So the donkey was the white man. That's true. You see, that's the reality there. But he's a stupid man, the man that does those judgments, makes those assessments, goes out in the night in white sheets, because he's too much of a coward to show his face when he does his vile deeds. Muslims don't put sheets on their head when they go fight for what they believe is right. They go out with their faces glowing, go out with prayer in their hearts and on their tongues. And the only white sheet they're going to wear is the one that they get if they die fighting for the truth. So we have to find out. There's a lot to find out. We have to stop being lazy. We have to wake up, really. There's a lot to do. We have to find out about these people. Really, wake up, people. We have to do this. Time's running out. Your own lives are running out. The Earth's time is running out. The polar ice caps are shrinking. Really, they're shrinking. It's unbelievable. We're sitting here and they're telling us the polar ice caps, they've confirmed that now. They're shrinking. Right? Seriously. I mean, they had one on, somebody told me this on the Discovery Channel, that there's a theory amongst astronomers now that the moon is actually coming closer to the Earth. It's been doing that, but now it's speeding up. And some of these astronomers said in 80 years, the Earth's rotation will stop and begin to move the other way. That was an estimate. That was on Discovery Channel, you see. People don't believe Muslim sources. You have to give them, you say BBC, and oh, really? BBC. You say Sahih Muslim, Sahih al-Bukhari, you know. But BBC must be true. It's got to be true. If they said it, unbelievable. You read enough news and you'll believe anything. Right? Really. So there's a lot to do. I was going to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's what happens, you know. I've been going on a long time and it's late, and thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum.